The Steelers' ability
Right.
to come back and win the game. I saw the graphic last night. All-time Steelers 214, 0, and 2 when leading by 14 points in the fourth quarter. And I thought that one was going to get dropped in there. I didn't think they were going to pull it off. And you got to give them credit, especially the way they started the drive. It was kind of sputtery. It was kind of clunky, that final drive, throwing little short passes, the ball staying in bounds. You can do that where 150 ends up being 15 seconds before you know it. And it just didn't seem like they were going to get it going. And then, the next thing you know, they're in field goal range. And that was there was that sequence where on every play a Bears player was lined up in the neutral zone. It was just weird. Like,
what?
How do you not have discipline in that moment?
I mean, the whole fourth quarter that was an issue for the Chicago Bears. I mean, at what point were they going to tell them, like, hey, back up, guys, you're offsides? There was plays where people were offsides, and I swear they stopped calling it because they were like, "Wait, we've called it 3 out of 5 plays. We can't. It seems weird to call it again." I think Louis Riddick made a point of it at one point. It was like, the Bears lined up offsides again. I don't know. The refs just didn't call it. But you're right. Clunky, that's the way to explain, I think, the Steelers' offense in general. I mean, it didn't start off good. They finally found a little, slant down the middle that kind of exposed the Bears' cover 2 coverage, found another one very similar to that, and all of a sudden there they were sitting pretty for field goal range. But that's to me, Mike, I mean, Steeler football right now. It's defense, it's clunky offense. They had the ball for 34 minutes in the football game and had 280 yards of total offense. But it doesn't matter. As long as, Big Ben and the offense don't screw it up. Now, we saw the special teams kind of screw it up.
Yes.
The Steelers are going to be tough to beat. I think this is a few weeks in a row we've seen, though, when Big Ben just plays ultra-conservative, take the sack, who cares? All right, you got to punt it and play field position, and they play through their defense, and they're patient with the run. It's not pretty, but it's Steeler football right now, and it's not going to be easy to beat them when he can at least, adjust to the game properly like we saw last night and like this graphic says, the last 4 games.
It really stood out last night,
Yeah.
him coloring within the lines.
Right.
The lines are different than they used to be, and you were harping on that when they started the season 1-3. He thinks it's 2011, and he can do things physically that he can no longer do. He doesn't try to do that anymore. So They figured it out. They realized he can't be the guy he used to be, and he needs to get that drilled into him. And it's worked.
It looks like it's working. Yeah. I mean, right. There was a few times last night, Mike, right? I mean, I know we were texting a little during the game, but there was a few times where there's people around him and it looked like he wanted to throw the ball and try to do something Big Ben magic like the old days, and he just went, I'll just take the sack. Or, oh, nothing's there, let me throw it away and just get done with it. And, hey, that's progress. Good for him. Glad to see that he's doing that. And, Steelers, even though it's not pretty, on a little run right now and gaining some confidence.
Another thing that isn't noticed when it's going well but stands out when it's not is offensive line play.
Yeah.
And the Steelers' offensive line has gotten better. And, when the offensive line's working, you notice the running back, the quarterback, and the receivers because they're doing great things with the ball. When the offensive line isn't working, you're like, oh, those guys don't know how to block. But the offensive line, which was obviously a work in progress to start the season with 80% turnover at the starting positions, now they're
respectable.
They're getting it done.
Yeah.
They're getting it done.
Right.
They're a lot better than they were, and it's allowing the offense to operate, not at the highest possible level, but high enough to complement the defense and even to overcome the kind of special teams miscue that the Steelers usually have to force in a game like this to win. They give you a free 7 on a fumbled punt return that's returned for a touchdown, and you're still able to win the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, it gives them a fighting chance the way the offensive line's playing. It wasn't great last night. That's a good Bears defense, as we saw. I mean, man, that Bears defensive line, especially when Akeem Hicks is in there, it's the real deal Holyfield, right? I mean, they made life tough on the Steelers every time they had a 3rd and 1 or 2nd and short. And you were just like, man, can the Bears stop them again? Especially in the first half and third quarter, it seemed like it was happening almost like every other drive for the most part. But I think it has gotten to the point where at least they can be patient with the run and Najee Harris. yeah, it wasn't easy last night, but not every week is going to be the Chicago Bears front seven. That's for sure. That's one of the more talented front sevens in football. They got some big dudes up there. But you could see that it's good enough to where, hey, 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards. They can manage the football game that way. And, you know, when they play a lesser front seven, I think it'll even be more successful than what we saw last night. And I love the other aspect of, Mike, it's the second week in a row because we saw it in the Browns game, those little reverses and stuff. That needs to continue to be more part of the offense with Claypool, James Washington, Deontay Johnson. They're too explosive at the wide receiver position. They can't really get them the ball the way they should in the pass game because of Big Ben and the offense still trying to find its way. So they got to do stuff to get them the ball. And you know, I always call it, and I think, you know, at one point Louis Riddick or Greasy kind of mentioned it, like Shanahan stuff with Deebo Samuel. Toss sweeps, reverses, speed sweeps. Get them involved. I like that aspect of the offense too.
They each had 2 carries, James Washington, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson. And one worked out, one didn't for each guy. But when it worked, it gained more than 10 yards. And Najee Harris had a 10-yard touchdown early. Other than that, he had 21 carries for 52 yards.
Yeah.
But it just shows you they were patient with it, even though it wasn't busting huge chunks of yardage. Right. That's their formula. They're going to try to make it work. And if you hit a wall and you have to punt, so be it. We'll trust our defense.
Yeah.
And the defense, okay, hey, the defense let them down. At the end, it was fitting that the offense found a way to make it happen. I want to ask you something because I've noticed some criticism of Big Ben's quote when he said they left me too much time. Should he have said they left us too much time? Is that crossing the line when he makes it about him, or is that's the word that just happened to pop out of his mouth?
You know, maybe a little. I think it just popped out of his mouth. I think a little ego popping up there. You know, he's just letting you know, like, hey, I have done this before. I think that's maybe, you know, he's frustrated. I'm sure he realizes the offense is not a well-oiled machine out there. Yeah, I'd like to hear him say us, certainly. But, I mean, come on. I'm not going to get too, Twitter angry at that one.
Oh, there's plenty of other things to get Twitter angry about.
Yeah,
we'll be talking about them later in the show. I was Twitter angry about this. We played it earlier. The third down run, the slow motion Tin Man is falling apart run from Ben Roethlisberger.
Right.
I don't know why they didn't review that. It sure looked like the spot needed to be adjusted. It looked like a bad spot to me, and there was no discussion whatsoever. It shows you what power the broadcasters have, because if they don't mention it, it's like it never happened, like they're watching some other game.
Yeah.
That should have justified a replay review. It looked too close to not at least press pause, because the difference, especially for those, and here it is, there goes the Tin Man, need oil can. He made it. That's a horrible spot. When the knee was down, the ball was past the spot, and there was no conversation about reviewing it. And here's why it's important, Christopher, and you know this very well because it was one of your best bets. Let's say that the Steelers had gotten a first down there. Oh. Let's say the Steelers had scored a touchdown. Let's say the Steelers had decided to go for 2 to make it a 7-point game, because who cares if we're up by 6? We're up by 5. Field goal doesn't beat us or tie us. If we get 1, it doesn't make a difference. We're only up 6. Right. We got to go for 2 and go up by 7. Oh, they're 6.5-point favorites. They would have covered the spread. That's why that's important. I mean, we could say, well, they still won the game. Right. But everybody who had the Steelers minus 6.5 with one of the sports books, it happens to be an official sports betting partner of the National Football League, they're pissed off. If I'd have had money on the Steelers last night, or as the case may be, if I had been rooting against you,
well, you were
to be right.
Like, I mean, that's why you're bringing it up, because you're still angry about it.
I'm pissed off about it. So I speak on behalf of everybody out there who had the Steelers laying 6.5. Why in the F-K did they not review that? Because he made it.
It was close. I did not think he made it. I did not.
Review it at least.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I
mean, yeah, I understand that. You want to review it. It's a big spot in the football game. Let's not just, depend on the black and white referees who were horrible up to that point to just come down the line and go, whoa, I'll go right here. That looks like it's where it is.
Watch it again.
Exact science.
Oil can. First down.
Right. I mean, Mike, it could have been a first down. There's no doubt. Hey, listen, I bet you the Bears. I look short. They showed a few replays where I thought it looked a little short.
Where's the ball where the knee hits? Oh, the ball's over the line, Pete.
But
they
showed some
replays.
They showed some replays.
But watch the spot.
It.
Watch the spot though. Where the guy on the line, the linesman or the line judge, whichever it is, head linesman or the line judge, it's behind where the ball was when the knee hit. Sorry.
I didn't think it was a bad spot either. Mike's just mad because I won the best bet and he wants to bring it up. Yes, exactly right. But,
turd.
I mean, listen, Mike.
Turd.
I mean, go ahead, Steelers. Go for it. I mean, go for the touchdown. You're so dangerous on offense. The Bears were probably like, give them the first down. They'll probably screw up and give us the ball again.
That's true.
So... I mean, again, I don't think that Mike Tomlin was all that worried about it because he knows what his team is right now at this point, certainly. But that was a big-time clutch drive right there. But the thing you brought up a little bit that I do think we have to hit on with the Steelers a little is just the fact of, like, we've seen it rear its ugly head here as of late during this little 4-game win streak of the defense wears out as the game goes on. It's the one thing that worries me. It's a Super Bowl caliber type defense that the Pittsburgh Steelers have. It's creative. They got a lot of good front seven players. Devin Bush continues to get better and healthier at middle linebacker. But, like the Seahawks game we saw on Sunday night a few weeks ago, even a little last week in Cleveland kind of messed the game up with some late drives as they moved the ball down the field. And then last night, you see the Steelers' depth issues, I think, are a little bit of a thing to look at and concerning, because, like I said, they're missing some defensive linemen, and you kind of see them wear out. There's only so many times you can rush the passer and just dominate the line of scrimmage in a football game, and I think that's one of the things I worry about them a little bit as far as the long-term outlook.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all, but they've won 4 in a row after we wrote them off. I talked to Pat Freiermuth after they beat the Browns, and he talked about how they allowed that to become a chip on their shoulder, and he would prefer that they continue to be written off.
They like
Hard to do it when you're 5-3.
Right.
Hard to pull it off when you are in the thick of things now in the AFC. You were left for dead in your division. Now you are in the thick of things, and this could be a dangerous team in the postseason if they can keep it close. It was an aberration against the Browns in the playoffs last year when it was 28-0 before you knew it or whatever it was. It was over. That grind it out, keep it close, trust your defense, hope for a special teams miscue, try to just kind of use your force of personality as Mike Tomlin to will the game your way. In a close game, it's far more likely.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.